Hey guys, so a lot of you might notice that this is a video that I released about 2 to 3 weeks ago. I'm actually re-uploading it now because it was taken down by YouTube shortly after I uploaded it. The issue has been rectified, so it's pretty much good to go now. Just getting it back on my channel, and whether or not you want to re-watch it is up to you, of course, so here it is. Yo guys, Punkrat with another video. So about a week or so ago, I made a propaganda piece for one of my all-time favorite classes, the Mage. The video was called Mages Are Broken. You guys seem to really like that one, so I figured I'd keep making more class-specific propaganda pieces, and for this one, I'm going to be covering my second most played class alongside the Mage, the class of Chad, the Alpha Male Supreme only class, the Warrior. This one is going to be real easy. It's not really a hard sale in vanilla on this one, boys. Warriors are god tier in all of their roles. Now you might be thinking, but Punkrat, Warriors suck at leveling.
Oh yeah? But can you do this?
Okay, fine, yeah, solo leveling, they aren't great, but they also aren't as bad as people would make you believe either. Warriors are gear dependent, so if you know what items to prioritize while leveling up to always stay ahead of the curve, then you can do surprisingly well, especially if you have a leveling route that prioritizes low armor mob camps in your leveling path when it comes to mob grinding. Of course, low armor mobs will get wrecked by a warrior. But yeah, overall, warriors aren't the greatest solo levelers, but they are incredibly good duo levelers with a healer, or dungeon grinding, which is the leveling strategy that we've seen rise up in the community since the classic WoW beta. We've learned that dungeons actually give more experience than we thought, and this has opened up the opportunity to just melee cleave or caster cleave speedruns through dungeons to level up. Warriors are the ideal class for this, so you can stack 3 warriors with 1 paladin, or a healer. Maybe on Horde side you can have a bunch of warriors with a shaman, and just give all the warriors Wind Fury, and you'll just cleave and whirlwind your way through all of the dungeons, slicing through every single mob like a hot knife through butter. The reason why warriors are so good in these scenarios is simple. The way that rage works in the old game is way different than the watered down normalized resource bar that we see in the modern versions of WoW. Warrior rage generation is not consistent. The amount of red bar that you're working with can greatly vary depending on 2 factors, hitting and being hit. So let's talk about hitting. When you land a blow against your enemy, you gain rage. Relatively small amount per hit, but where it becomes interesting is you actually get way more rage on critical strikes that you land. So as you can see here, normal rage generation is doubled on critical hits for both your main hand and your offhand. So for dealing damage, you'll see main hand normal hits, factor of 2.5, and then main hand crits is a factor of 5, offhand 1.25, and then offhand crits is 2.5, so it's double the amount of rage generation depending on whether or not you're critting. Now combine rage gained on successful hits with actually taking damage. So whenever you receive damage from an enemy attack, you get extra rage. So if you're a warrior pulling and face tanking mobs, maybe multiple mobs at that, these creatures will actually be feeding you an almost endless rage bar as the healer is keeping you healthy. This is the factor that takes you to a whole new level. It's endless rage, incoming heals, and endless cleaves dumping your rage pretty much on every single global. Warriors are the only class that interact this way with the resource bar, which is the main reason why you always hear warriors are so good with heal bots, or warriors like to level up with a pocket healer. Now this concept also has its downfalls, so it's also tied in with tanking. As a warrior main tank in a raid, if you lose threat on the boss, the target is potentially, or most of the time if it's a raid boss, actually immune to taunt, so you can be pretty screwed if you lose aggro. Without being hit, your entire ability bar will pretty much be grayed out.
Not enough rage. Need more rage. Need more rage. Not enough rage. Need more rage. Need more rage.
This is why it's so crucial to control threat in vanilla. It's not as simple as a quick taunt to get the boss back onto the main tank or just stop DPS. Pulling threat off the main tank can cause really messy scenarios where the warrior is just unable to get threat back on the boss. And also connected to this concept is how gear scaling affects rage generation. Warriors scale harder with gear than any other class in the game. Once you're a fresh level 60 with greens, blues, no crit rating, no hit rating, all you have is maybe strength and stamina, you're pretty much useless. But once you start accumulating even a basic pre-raid set with crit rating on it, attack power, agility, strength, and of course, the most important, hit rating, you skyrocket and pretty much become the best DPS class in the game, and that's no exaggeration. Warriors are pretty much number one across all raid tiers. So the increased hit rating allows you to land more blows. More attacks landing means more rage, which also means more critical strikes landing as well. Now, if your critical strike is increased, it's what we just went over. You'll actually be generating way more rage, and of course you'll be doing double damage on your attacks. That concept mixed in with your increased attack power as a base, and of course a strong weapon linked in for heavy top end damage scaling with your strikes, those are the reasons why warriors scale so well. So if you were to look at a single target boss fight best overall logs, you'd basically always see mages from AQ40 to Nax, with a couple warriors scattered out here and there. That's because mages actually have Ignite, which stacks all under one mage, so you have all of the mages stacking into one mage's damage. But in reality, warriors are the top performing DPS. So if we take a look at Nefarian, for example, where mages are actually frost and rolling ignites aren't really a factor, look at the DPS list. I mean, it's pretty much all warriors. That we could have a little paladin over here, but he must have just cheesed the undead mobs. Now, another big factor that also helps warriors in their reign as the god tier DPS class in vanilla are world buffs. So we just went over how warriors scale with stat increases. Now imagine that with all of the stats that you get from world buffs across the line. So Rallying Cry of the Dragon Slayer gives you 5% crit and 180 attack power. The DM North Tribute runs, you can get, mainly Fangus's Ferocity for 200 attack power. War Chief's Blessing gives you 15% attack speed for increased rage regeneration and obviously damage from the increased haste. Spirit of Zandalar giving you 15% stat increase, so a bump in strength for attack power gain and agility for more crit. 10% increased damage from the Dark Moon Fair buff, which of course won't be available till later phases, but it's still a factor, and Songflower Serenade, which increases your crit by another 5% on top of Rallying Cry of the Dragon Slayer. All of these buffs turn you into Goku stepping right out of the hyperbolic time chamber.
They must be done. But why now? That's not even a year.
I think warriors probably benefit the most from world buffs out of all classes. So Fury Warriors are dominant, but it doesn't necessarily just end there. They're also, in my opinion, the most fun DPS class to play in Classic WoW. There's a couple of reasons why I don't personally opt for maining a Fury Warrior normally, but in an ideal world, I would main a Fury Warrior 10 out of 10 times. The rotation is more interactive than pretty much any other class there is. You're using Bloodthirst every time it's up, Whirlwind on CD, and every time one of your strikes gets dodged, you swap over to battle stance and pop an overpower after it's triggered. Of course, consciously keeping track of your rage bar to not actually switch over to battle stance when you have 90 rage and just nuke your entire rage bar just for a single overpower. So you'll cleave or heroic strike to dump your rage out and then switch over for the overpower. It's all about time and micromanagement. The only real downside, honestly, is carpal tunnel. But between on time on mobs, cleaving, swapping between different stances, it's just super fun to play. Not to mention Deathwish, which when used alongside full world buffs and consumables, takes you to an extreme power level, maybe something around 9,000 or even higher. Popping Deathwish with a nasty Fury set and fully buffed up is one of the most satisfying experiences in vanilla WoW, at least in raiding, and trust me on that. And of course, once the mob or the boss is below 20% HP, then you go into full execute mode, and execute hits ridiculously hard in vanilla. But warriors aren't only top tier DPS, they're also the best tanks in the game, which is obviously a widely known fact. So I won't spend too much time delving into this concept, but listen, warriors are the only tanking class in the game who have a fully fleshed out tanking skill set. Druids are acceptable, but they just don't have the same ability to tank hard-hitting bosses like Patchwork at the same level as a warrior. Not to mention, warriors have Shield Wall and Last Stand as clutch defensive cooldowns, while druids have Frenzied Regen and Barkskin, but Barkskin can only be used outside of bear form, so they'd have to actually shift out mid-fight to pop their Barkskin and they would instantly get one-shot by Patchwork, for example. Frenzied Regen is kind of meh. It's a nice heal, but it's not as good as Last Stand. Druids can main tank in vanilla, but expect to get globaled randomly by certain bosses if you get unlucky with your mitigation during a softened rage, like on Chromagus or something once he hits 20%. And also understand that you don't have the ability to reactively use a clutch cooldown that can literally save the raid from a wipe. Nothing compares to Shield Wall's 75% damage reduction, and Last Stand as a massive health pool increase, especially on a boss like Maexna during the web wrap on the soften rage, where the tank needs to pop a cooldown to survive during the enrage since the healers are all going to be stunned by the web wrap mechanic. Warrior tanks obviously have one weakness, and that's AoE tanking, but engineering tools and other consumables and buffs available to them across the world, warriors can actually AoE tank just as well as a paladin tank. Sounds surprising, right? But just check this out. If you still don't believe me, go check out the video that I made called The Most OP Consumables in Classic WoW, or my Warrior Tanking Guide, if you need further convincing. So Warrior tanks are tier 1 if not number 1 in both of their respective roles. Warriors are the alpha chads of vanilla, that's just a fact. At a high level of speedrun rating, you can also opt for a Fury tanking spec as well, which is the best option for pulling a high amount of single target threat. We've seen dual wield tanking as well, like on Skarm Tank's videos, which allows for insane threat generation. A lot of you guys might be skeptical of this concept, a tank without a shield or a tank in Fury spec, thinking this will only work on private servers. I honestly don't think so. This will most likely become the meta for the high-end guilds on Classic as well once gear scales enough and people have enough hit rating and enough base defense with their hybrid tank set. People are definitely going to try to make that happen once they start maxing out and looking to speed clear raids at a very fast pace. When world records are involved, you know that people are going to be going all out. Now when it comes to PvP, again, warriors are dominant. In a 1v1 scenario, sure, just like leveling, warriors struggle. They're not a solo class, they're not self-sufficient. Most classes will get the better of you, even if there's a skill mismatch at certain times. But when it comes to BG premades, the power dynamic shifts on its head. It's a whole different ballgame. It's the same concept. A warrior with trash gear, no attack power, crit, leather gear, maybe a small health pool, even with a healer is pretty garbage, you could just get 2-shot. But a warrior with a full plate set, a massive health pool, potentially even with a flask on top of that, a force of a two-hander, high attack power, high crit, followed by a group of fangirl healers, becomes a raid boss. Warriors are susceptible to CC? No worries. Healers can cleanse, paladins can freedom. Shamans don't have freedom? Well, alchemists have free action potion. A free-running crit machine bashing all peasants in your way to the ground like a slapstick piano. So the sturdiness of a warrior, the mobility in charge and intercept, the offensive burst capabilities tied in with Mortal Strike reducing incoming healing on the target by 50% makes the warrior the centerpiece of a pre-made, the shot caller in chief. You hit what the warrior hits, you assist his target at all times and follow that warrior into battle. Not to mention sweeping strikes allowing you to cut down groups of casuals like a damn lawnmower. You might not be mowing the lawn when mom asks you since you're a filthy World of Warcraft degenerate, but you'll definitely be mowing the lawn in Arathi Basin, that's for sure. And of course, like I mentioned in the PvE section, you have Execute, which is the finisher ability. It hits so ridiculously hard in vanilla. Once you're below 20% HP, or once your enemy is below 20% HP, they don't stand a damn chance. It's over for them. This class sets the pace. The rest follow in your footsteps, which might fit your personality trope really well. Alright fellas, there you have it, the warrior propaganda piece. Real easy. Warriors are arguably the easiest sell. They're top tier in pretty much every aspect of the game outside of maybe solo leveling and solo dueling. You can't go wrong with picking a warrior. It's an incredibly fun class to play, with the stance dancing dynamic, the power creep, and of course the viability in all facets of the game. If you're the kind of player who likes pushing the pace, playing aggressively and charging into the fray of combat, go with the warrior. If you're a natural born leader ready to charge into claw distance of a massive dragon ready to belch flame onto your noggin, then tanking is the way for you. I mentioned earlier that I tend to not go Fury, but if I could, I would 10 out of 10 times. That's because I always feel the duty to main tank and raid lead whenever I raid, pretty much. It's kind of like a if you want it done right, do it yourself type deal. I get insanely triggered by poor leadership and bad tanking, so I always feel forced to go tank. Fury warriors are pretty trivial in a raiding environment where warrior tanks are the core of the raid, the center of attention, the heart to the arteries. Alright boys, so if you're on the fence when it comes to picking the warrior class, hopefully this helped seal the deal. Maybe that's not a good thing since warriors are already super overpopulated, but who cares? If you think that this is the right class for you, do it up. Don't let anyone stop you from achieving your Roman gladiator fantasy. All the e-girls will want to touch your abs and shit. Trust. Alright, that's it for me. Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can catch all my uploads hot out of the oven. You know the drill, soldiers. I really hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the other side. Peace.